What have I done? What have I done? This is tessellation taken too far. Oh my god. Where's a health file? Look at it. It's so big it can't even spin anymore. Hi everybody, it's 314 Reactor here. The other week you may have seen my video on DirectX 11 renderer for Unreal Tournament. Now version 1.1, which was released last week, but I haven't actually looked at some of the more detailed additions to it, so let's have a look. They've added a tessellation config file, which allows you to define how much tessellation affects certain models. That's because some of the weapons in game looked a bit funny, like balloon animally, because they weren't designed with tessellation in mind, so that should help mitigate that. There's also some extra stuff under the renderer preferences window, which is HBAO scale, which defines how many pixels are affected by a HBAO calculation. HBAO, I believe, is horizon-based ambient occlusion, and that adds some extra shadowing and lighting details to a scene. So I added in a contrast variable for that and define how dark the occlusion mapping is. Alternate draw method, which looks like it fixes an issue with explosions, flares, and makes them more transparent, and the fog is more affected by the ambient occlusion. I'll give that a go. HDR luminance, so you can make more vivid HDR colors on screen. The adaptation speed, that'll be the speed to which the player's eyes adapt to lighting changes. And again, that's a value between 0 and 1. And HDR bloom adjustment defines how much to blur light sources, so you can crank that way up and have your bloom like it's Oblivion in 2006 all over again. That's awesome. I think that's it. Oh, there's also a new setting in the Unreal Tournament INI file where you can completely turn off tessellation if you want. Just so in case you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about. So ambient occlusion is essentially a way to approximate how light should be shining on a surface based on the environment and objects around it. So it essentially helps the ambient lighting look more realistic and give the environments a lot more depth. HDR is enabling the rendering of computer graphics using high dynamic range, so you can use super bright and super dark environments together and maintain details in both. And because you have such a large range of lighting, you can also go through a larger range of exposure, so you can get more like the human eye reacts to certain environments. So for instance, when you go in a dark room and then come back out into a light room, the light's a lot brighter, and vice versa. When you come out of a bright room into a dark room, you can barely see anything because your eyes are used to the bright light and it takes them a while to adjust. So HDR and the adaptation helps that simulation of the eyes in game, if that makes any sense. I'll put links to these in the description so you can read up from an actual source that knows how to explain it properly. And tessellation is where it adds in polygons in real time. Unreal weapons are often quite low poly, so tessellation helps this by adding in extra polygons. So for instance, the scope on the sniper rifle you can actually make round. The only trouble with this is that the old models in Unreal Tournament are 20 years old and weren't designed with tessellation in mind, so some of them, as you may have seen in my previous video, which I'll link down below, they look a bit ballooned up and a bit ridiculous. So the modder here has essentially added a way for us to change this and customize it for each individual object, which is very handy. Let's take a look at the tessellation config file and actually change some stuff in here. So the impact hammer, just trying to remember what ones looked a bit silly. Sniper rifle did. Just tone that down. Okay, so I've changed some of those, kind of playing it by ear there. Not sure what that's going to change or whether I've changed the right things there, but let's see. Let's boot up the game. Okay, so here we are in game. Let's see how the weapons look. Impact hammer's looking pretty fine there, not too balloony. The Enforcer's looking quite a bit better. I think before the magazine at the front there was incredibly bulged out, but it's less so now. Bi rifle looks fine. Shock rifle looks fine. Pulse rifle looks fine. Ripjack, looks fine as well. Minigun, looks fine, could maybe be toned down a bit. Flat cannon, definitely looking a lot better. Still maybe need to tone it down a bit more. Rocket launcher looks fine. And sniper rifle looks a little bit better. Again, looks like it could be toned down a bit more though. So overall, just having a quick change of the settings makes things look a little bit less bulgy. These probably need toning down a bit. And these third person sort of models, pickup models, probably need a little bit of a toning down because that looks a bit bulgy. Oh, these definitely need toning down, they're still bulgy. So let's go back to the drawing board a bit. Okie dokie, so I've toned things down a bit more. Hopefully that makes the sniper rifle look a little bit better. Again, let's dive back in and see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, the sniper rifle's looking a lot better. Flat cannon's looking a little bit better as well. And the minigun's looking pretty good. Let's find some health files. Okay, so they're looking a little bit better. Probably could be toned down a little bit more. So as you can see down this corridor on Hyperblast, you can You definitely see that effect of bloom around there. And definitely here. So that is with bloom on. And that is with HDR and bloom off. So as you can see, the lighting just looks so much flatter. Nowhere near as good. Really does make a hell of a difference. Okay, let's crank it back on again. And while we're cranking it back on, let's put the bloom up to max. Let's see what happens. Let's put the HDR up to max as well. Let's go all the way. Let's make this look as bright and as luminant as possible. Oh, yes. So you can see this super bloom around there. Definitely reminds me of the old days of HDR and bloom when it first came about, like in Oblivion, where it was just so exaggerated. I like it. I like that effect. Apparently that new setting, the alternate rendering of HBAO, affects fog and explosions. I'm sure those explosions actually look a lot smoother. Let's find a more foggy map. Aha, I think I can see now more what that's doing. And it's definitely hitting the frame rate. Let's see, I'm down to 52 frames a second here. So as you can see, there's the ambient occlusion there. You can definitely see that sort of depth through the fog. That's with the HBAO alternate draw on. Let's turn it off. And the frame rate is about the same. So I can't actually see much difference with that alternate method on or off. At least not here. So this is explosions with the alternate draw on. And this is with the alternate draw off. Interesting. I think it looks better with it on, but I can't tell. Again, I'm going to have to see when the video's out so I can directly compare frames. So what I'm going to do now is put the ambient occlusion settings all to the very max, just like I've done with HDR. And then we'll see what it looks like with everything maxed out. And then we'll see what it looks like with everything off. And see what the difference is. This looks like a decently lit area. Okay, so that's with everything on, maxed out. And that is with ambient occlusion and HDR both completely off. So yeah, the scene loses a lot of depth and the lighting looks very flat and bland. So next up, just for fun, let's balloon up the sniper rifle as high as it can go and see how ridiculous it looks. Okie dokie, so I'm backing up the tessellation file. You know what, let's just turn everything on to absolute maximum tessellation. Okie dokie, so that is everything, in theory, cranked up to max tessellation. Let's save that and let's boot up the game. Wow. So that is with tessellation to the very max. Wow, look at it. It's like morphing as I'm looking around it. The guns look like balloon animals. I love it. Oh wow, look at that. Good lord. Oh my god. What have I done? What have I done? This is tessellation taken too far. Oh my god. Where's a health file? Look at it. It's so big it can't even spin anymore. Oh, that's funny. So let's do a direct comparison. This is with ridiculous levels of tessellation on. And this is back with ridiculous levels of tessellation off. Okay, so obviously, you know, if you're going to set everything to max, it's going to look ridiculous. So, look at this. What is this? That's the ammo for the ripjack. Oh my god. Looks like it's just exploded. It's like, it's popcorned. That's what it's done. It's popcorned out. So obviously you're not going to be running with these settings to this ridiculous level. So let me go away for a bit and adjust these settings to be a bit more sensible and hopefully make the game look a little bit better. Just 1 second. Things are looking a little bit less ballooned. As you can see, the scope there on the sniper rifle is still very octagonal in shape. So there's different settings for each of the guns, which I think affects different parts of them. So I'm going to have to find out what parts affect what, so I can smooth out the scope, but without ballooning up the rest of the gun. Rocket launcher looks fine. It looks a bit ballooned around the rocket pack. Probably need to tone that down. Minigun looks fine. Again, probably needs a bit of fine tuning on certain parts, especially around the ammo counter. The rip jack is looking a bit bloated as well. Looks like there's a bit of stippling or something there with the shadowing on the ambient occlusion. That might just be unavoidable. There's plenty to tweak with this updated renderer, so you can pretty much tweak it how you want. I've definitely got something wrong with the ambient occlusion there. As I can go down that hallway, you can see there's a big square going through. So I've screwed something up. So I'm going to have to go away and tweak this quite a bit and then hopefully make another video. Hopefully, if the creator of this renderer is watching this, if you could let me know some of the more optimal settings and also how to find out what parts of the CFG file affect what parts of the weapons. That would be cool. If they could be labeled actually in the CFG file, that would be awesome. So please, if you could. I know you put a lot of work into it already, but just a little bit more. Seriously though, the creator of this renderer is super talented, really cool person to have taken the work that was already done on the DirectX 11 renderer a few years ago and to expand it. And to add in this sort of customization is really cool. You can check them out over at moddb. I'll put a link to it in the description. So you should go there right now, download this renderer, put it in your UT, tweak it, play around with it, and then leave some nice comments for them on moddb, because I think they've put a lot of work into this and they deserve a lot of thanks for it. So thank you to them, and thank you to watching. If you like this video, please hit like and leave a comment and subscribe for future videos. Next week I'll be unleashing my 20 years of Unreal Tournament retrospective video, so keep an eye out for that. That should be coming out on the 27th. And then I also will be having a new tech project coming up soon where I'll be releasing my Mark II Edith glasses. So stick around for that, and I'll see you in the next one.